Listen carefully. Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to be talking about metric modulation. It's when you take the value of what was something in the first meter and you make it the same value of something that's not the same thing in the other meter. That sounds a little bit confusing, so let's look at an example. Here I've got something moving at the tempo of 90 beats per minute. Then it modulates up to 180 beats per minute. This is, as you can tell, it's double. This is one of the most simple variations of metric modulation there is. So let me go ahead and play for you just a little bit of this. So we get a sense of where the beat is. We know where the tempo, not the tempo, well, we get a sense of the tempo too, but the meter, the beat. So now what I do is, one of the things you do when you're doing this is you give a little sort of group of notes before you change the meter so that it will then be represented. Well, in this case, the meter doesn't really change, but we are modulating the tempo to be something else. This is a simple example. I didn't want to do a complicated one. So you get the idea. These are 16th notes, or 8th notes. These are 8th notes, and these are quarter notes. But because the time speeds up to double, we could legitimately write that a quarter note equals an 8th note. And that is, the other way around. The 8th note equals the quarter note at the new tempo. And so they'll have, like, in written music, they'll actually have a marking that states this. But this is a pretty simple example. So we are essentially have made a transition into a new, to a faster piece, basically is what we've done here. And that's mostly what it's used for, is these transitional moments. Now, this is this is a very simple example. You could get something a lot more complicated if you wanted to, and just do a little bit of math and you can figure out what you need to do. For example, you could have what was a triplet in the previous measure be equal to an 8th note, like the actual value of what the 8th note is, like the exact same length of time in the next measure by modulating your meter. So you'd sound a bunch of triplets, then you change the tempo by however much you need to get the 8th note to be the same value, and then you're moving in a different piece, but then you may have shifted the meter. So it gets a little weird. So you can do stuff like that. You can get things like quarter notes to equal whole notes, or dotted quarter notes to equal just a regular quarter note or whatever. It's just you're changing the tempo to basically be the same thing, and that really shifts around the beat, especially in those examples. It gets kind of weird. So that's just what it is. So I figured I'd show you guys because it's kind of a cool idea. It's something that I'm definitely going to mess with more, but it's just something I don't, because my particular way of working right now is definitely not the most friendly towards something like that. As soon as they toss in multiple time signatures in FL, it'll probably be a lot easier. So this is something I think would actually be easier to do in Finale or Sibelius or something. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.